When did you realize your parents were terrible role models? I was 14, and it was the year of the Great Storm. Our old oak tree lost a big branch that smashed right into our roof, leaving a gaping hole. My parents, who planned our family budget down to the last penny, were in a panic. My dad, a high school history teacher who could tell you everything about the Roman Empire but couldn't fix a leaky faucet, started calling roofers. They all quoted insane numbers. Then we found Mr. Henderson. He had a friendly, weathered face and a big shiny truck with Henderson Roofing, "We've got you covered," painted on the side. He seemed like a godsend. He quoted them $5,000, which was still a lot, but way less than the others. He shook my dad's hand firmly and told my mom not to worry. My parents scraped together the money from their savings, the money they were setting aside for my college fund. Mr. Henderson and his crew were done in 2 days. They left behind a few loose shingles in the yard, but the hole was covered. He collected his check, gave me a wink, and said, "Your roof is stronger than a fortress now, kid." That night, we all slept soundly for the first time in a week. The very next Saturday, it started to rain. At first, it was a light drizzle, then it became a downpour. I was in the living room when I heard it. Drip, drip, drip. A dark, ugly spot was growing on the ceiling, right in the middle of our dining room. The leak wasn't just back, it was worse. It was a steady stream now, like a tiny waterfall. My dad's face turned pale. He called Mr. Henderson immediately. The call went straight to voicemail. He called again and again. He must have left 20 messages. My mom tried from her phone. Same thing. For a week, it was a cycle of calls, unanswered texts, and growing despair. The water was ruining the ceiling and the floor. The house smelled like damp and decay. My parents were so stressed they started snapping at each other. Finally, after a week of constant calling, Mr. Henderson picked up. My dad tried to be calm, explaining the situation. Mr. Henderson's friendly voice was gone. He was cold. He said, "The job is done. The contract is signed. I don't do callbacks for buyer's remorse." Then he hung up. My dad just stood there, phone in his hand, looking at the bubbling paint on the ceiling. I saw my mom crying silently in the kitchen later that night. That was the lowest I'd ever seen them. They looked broken. But then something shifted. The next evening, the crying stopped. The arguing stopped. I walked past my parents' bedroom and heard them whispering. Not sad whispers, but excited, conspiratorial whispers. The next day, I came home from school and found them at the dining table, which they'd moved to avoid the drip. The family computer was open. My mom, the librarian who organized book fairs, was navigating the county's public records website like a professional investigator. My dad, the history teacher, was on social media, but he wasn't looking at pictures of his former students. He was mapping out Mr. Henderson's entire digital life, his friends, his favorite sports bar, his posts bragging about his new jet ski. The following days were like something out of a spy movie. My dad went to the thrift store and bought a dozen mismatched, dusty picture frames. My mom bought some fancy, expensive-looking certificate paper and started printing things. They were meticulously crafting a narrative. They even started calling other roofing companies, not for quotes, but for information, pretending to be students doing a research project on local businesses. They were gathering intelligence. They were building a case, not for a lawyer, but for something else entirely. I asked my dad what was going on. He just smiled, a glint in his eye I'd never seen before, and said, "Sometimes, son, you have to create your own primary sources." A week later, the trap was set. My dad used a prepaid burner phone to call Mr. Henderson. He put on a deeper, more authoritative voice and introduced himself as Mr. Peterson, the chairman of a local business association. He explained that their community center's roof had been damaged and they needed an emergency repair. He talked about a massive insurance payout and a tight deadline, offering Mr. Henderson the job for $20,000 plus a $5,000 cash bonus for starting the next day. Henderson couldn't agree fast enough. He showed up at the community center the next morning, practically drooling at the prospect of a huge payday. He walked into the main hall, expecting to see a damaged roof. Instead, he saw my dad standing in the middle of the room, but he wasn't alone. Standing with him in a semicircle were about 20 other people, men, women, elderly couples, each of them holding one of the framed documents my mom had printed. One frame held a screenshot of Mr. Henderson's jet ski post with the caption, "Another satisfied customer." Another frame held a copy of a lien he'd put on an old woman's house. Another held a printout of a complaint from the Better Business Bureau. They were all his victims. Mr. Henderson's greedy smile melted off his face. It was replaced by a look of pure, primal fear. He was surrounded. It wasn't a mob. It was just a quiet, organized group of people he had wronged, each with a story to tell.